Some moments change everything. They arrive unannounced, disguised as ordinary evenings that suddenly transform into something you'll remember for the rest of your life. For me, that moment came on a Tuesday night in October, when I found myself trapped in a building after hours with the one person I'd spent 6 months trying not to fall in love with. His name was Adrian, and this is the story of how one accidental night together rewrote everything I thought I knew about fear, courage, and what it means to finally let yourself be seen. I should start at the beginning. My name is Marcus, and at 24, I'd become exceptionally good at two things: graphic design and emotional avoidance. The former paid my bills at a mid-sized marketing agency downtown. The latter kept my heart safely locked away where it couldn't get hurt again. Adrian Hayes had walked into our office 6 months earlier, all confident smiles and creative energy, hired as the new senior copywriter. I noticed him immediately, everyone did. He had this presence that filled a room without demanding attention, the kind of natural charisma that made people gravitate toward him during coffee breaks and brainstorming sessions. Dark hair that perpetually looked slightly disheveled in an intentional way, warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he laughed, a smile that could disarm anyone, and a voice, God, his voice, deep and smooth, the kind that wrapped around you like a favorite sweater. I told myself my interest was purely professional admiration. I was lying. The truth settled into my bones slowly, then all at once. It happened during a project meeting 3 weeks after he'd started. When he defended one of my design concepts that the client was questioning, he'd stood up, walked to the presentation screen, and explained the visual narrative I'd created with such genuine understanding that I'd felt truly seen for the first time in years. After the meeting, he'd caught my eye across the conference room and smiled. Not the polite professional smile you give colleagues, but something warmer, more real. You're brilliant, he'd said simply. Don't let anyone dull that. I'd mumbled something awkward in response, my cheeks burning, and retreated to my desk to silently panic about the way my heart had stuttered in my chest. That's when I knew I was in trouble. The thing is, I'd been hurt before, badly. My last relationship had ended 2 years earlier when my ex, Tyler, decided he wasn't ready to be publicly gay, despite us dating for 18 months. He'd wanted to keep us hidden, compartmentalized, like I was something shameful he could only acknowledge in private. When I'd finally worked up the courage to end things, he'd made it seem like I was being unreasonable. Not everyone needs to broadcast their personal life, he'd said, making me feel demanding and needy for wanting basic acknowledgement. It had shattered something in me since then. I'd built walls. I'd convinced myself that staying guarded was strength, that not needing anyone was the same as being whole. I went to work, hung out with my small circle of friends, and kept my emotional life carefully contained. Then Adrian arrived and made those walls feel like the prison they actually were. Over the months, we'd developed an easy friendship. We'd grab lunch together occasionally, share music recommendations, joke about our quirky colleagues. He'd tell me about his weekend hiking adventures or the novel he was working on in his spare time. I'd share stories about my eccentric younger sister or the pottery classes I'd been taking to de-stress. It felt safe, comfortable, except for the moments when it didn't, like when his hand would brush mine, reaching for the same coffee pot in the break room, and electricity would shoot up my arm, or when he'd lean over my shoulder to look at my computer screen, and I'd catch the scent of his cologne. Something woody and warm that made me want to close my eyes and breathe deeply, or the way he'd sometimes look at me during team meetings with this expression I couldn't quite read, something that made my stomach flip and my palms sweat. I'd convinced myself I was imagining things. Adrian was straight, or at least not interested. He'd never mentioned dating anyone of any gender, but he also gave no clear signs that he saw me as anything other than a friend, and I was too terrified to risk finding out. The Tuesday that changed everything started ordinarily enough. We'd been assigned to collaborate on a major pitch for a potential client, a boutique hotel chain looking for a complete brand refresh. The presentation was scheduled for Thursday morning, which meant we had less than 48 hours to finalize everything. I'd been working on the visual concepts for weeks, creating mood boards and design mock-ups that captured the elegant, intimate atmosphere the client wanted. Adrian had been crafting the narrative, framework and copy that would bring those visuals to life. We decided to stay late, Tuesday evening, to merge everything into a cohesive presentation. Most of our colleagues had left by 6, the office gradually emptying until it was just the two of us in the design bullpen, surrounded by scattered papers, empty coffee cups, In the glow of our computer screens, okay, what if we restructure this section? Adrian suggested around 7:30, rolling his chair over to my desk. We'd been working side by side for the past hour, that comfortable, collaborative rhythm we'd developed over various projects. He pulled up the presentation on my larger monitor, leaning in close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. I tried to focus on the screen, not on the way my heart rate had increased. Yeah, I managed, clearing my throat. And maybe we moved this visual element too. The lights went out, not gradually, all at once, plunging us into complete darkness. What the hell? Adrian's voice came from beside me, surprised but not panicked. I fumbled for my phone. The screen's glow, providing minimal light. Power outage? Must be. He'd pulled out his phone too, the dual illumination barely pushing back the shadows. That's weird. The building's backup generators should have kicked in. He sat in silence for a moment, waiting. Nothing happened. Let me check the hallway, I said, standing carefully and making my way toward the door, using my phone's flashlight to navigate. The entire floor was dark. Through the windows, I could see the neighboring buildings still lit up normally. Whatever had happened was specific to our building. Just us, I reported. Returning to find Adrian had gathered our phones and was using them to create a makeshift light source on my desk. Should we call someone? He asked. I tried the office manager's number. It went straight to voicemail. I left a brief message explaining the situation, then tried building security. No answer. A prickle of unease ran down my spine. That's not good. Adrian walked to the elevator bank, pressing the button repeatedly. Nothing. He tried the stairwell door. It didn't budge. Marcus, he said, his voice carefully calm in that way. That meant he was working not to alarm me. This door is locked. From the outside, my stomach dropped. The automatic security system must have engaged when the power went out. He pulled harder on the door, but it remained firmly sealed. It's designed to lock down the floor in case of emergencies. I rushed over, trying the door myself, as if my attempt would somehow yield different results. It didn't. We were locked in, alone, together. Okay, don't panic, Adrian said, though I noticed he'd run his hand through his hair, something he did when he was stressed. Someone will realize the building's system malfunctioned. They'll send someone. I nodded, trying to calm my suddenly racing heart. Being trapped was concerning, yes, but a different kind of anxiety was creeping in. The awareness that I was going to be stuck in close quarters with Adrian, possibly for hours, with none of the usual office buffer of other people and professional boundaries. Right, I agreed, my voice sounding higher than normal. Totally fine. Just a waiting game. Adrian smiled, and even in the dim light from our phones, it was reassuring. We've got phones, so we're not completely cut off. And hey, at least the company is good. My heart did that stupid, fluttering thing again. Yeah, I said softly. At least there's that. An hour passed. Then 2. We'd tried every possible exit, all locked or alarmed. We'd called everyone we could think of. I'd finally reached the emergency facilities line, and they'd assured us a technician was being dispatched. But due to the complexity of the security system malfunction, it would take several hours to safely override. It's like we're having a sleepover, Adrian joked, though I could hear the tension underneath. We'd relocated to the break room, which had a window and felt less claustrophobic than the dark office space. We'd raided the vending machines. I'd taught Adrian the trick of shaking the machine in just the right way to get free snacks, and settled onto the surprisingly comfortable couch someone had donated months ago, the city lights filtering through. The window provided enough ambient glow that we'd been able to put our phone flashlights away, saving battery. This is surreal, I said, unwrapping a granola bar that was supposed to be my dinner now. Of all the nights to get trapped, could be worse, Adrian pointed out. Could be stuck with Henderson from accounting. I laughed despite myself. Henderson was notorious for his aggressive small talk and detailed stories about his fantasy football league. Fair point. Adrian turned to look at me, his expression softening. Besides, I meant what I said earlier. The company really is good. You're one of my favorite people here, Marcus. Probably my favorite, actually. The words hit me like a physical touch, warm and unexpected. I felt my cheeks flush and was grateful for the darkness hiding my reaction. You too, I said quietly, the words feeling inadequate for the tangle of emotions in my chest. Silence settled between us. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of quiet that felt full rather than empty, charged with things unsaid. Can I ask you something? Adrian's voice was careful, tentative in a way I'd never heard from him before. Sure, I replied, my heart starting to pound. He hesitated, and in that pause, I could hear the weight of something significant building. Why do you sometimes look at me like you're afraid I'll disappear? The question caught me completely off guard. I opened my mouth, then closed it, struggling to find words that wouldn't expose too much. I started, but he gently interrupted. You do? He said softly. I've noticed for months now, these moments where you'll look at me and there's something in your eyes, something vulnerable and guarded at the same time. And then you'll pull back, put up walls, and I can never figure out what I did wrong. My throat felt tight. You didn't do anything wrong. Then what is it? I stood up, suddenly needing movement, needing space to breathe. I walked to the window, looking out at the glittering city below. All those people in their own worlds, unaware of this small drama playing out in a darkened office building. Marcus. Adrian's voice was closer now. He'd followed me. Talk to me, please. It's complicated, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I've got time, he replied, and there was a hint of humor in his tone, but underneath it, something raw and real. We're literally trapped here. Might as well use it for honest conversation. I closed my eyes, my heart hammering so hard I was sure he could hear it. This was it, the moment I'd been avoiding for 6 months. I could keep hiding, keep protecting myself behind walls I'd built from old pain, or I could be brave. I thought about what my therapist had said months ago. Sometimes the scariest thing is also the most necessary thing. I took a deep breath and turned to face Adrian. His eyes were dark in the low light, fixed on me with an intensity that made my knees weak. We were standing close, closer than colleagues, closer than casual friends. You scare me, I admitted, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because of what I feel when I'm around you. Adrian went very still. What do you feel? This was it. The cliff's edge. I jumped. Everything. The word hung in the air between us, heavy with implication and vulnerability. Adrian's expression shifted. Surprise. Then something that looked like hope. Then careful caution. Marcus, I know, I interrupted, unable to stop now that I'd started, the words spilling out like water through a broken dam. I know it's probably not mutual. I know we're colleagues and friends and I'm risking making everything weird. But you asked for honesty, and I'm so tired of hiding how I feel every single day. I was rambling, my hands gesturing helplessly, months of suppressed emotion finally breaking free. I'm tired of pretending I don't notice every little thing about you. The way you hum when you're concentrating. How you always bring me coffee on Mondays because you know I'm not a morning person. The way you genuinely listen when people talk like their words actually matter to you. I'm tired of acting like my heart doesn't race every time you smile at me, or like I don't replay our conversations in my head at night trying to figure out if there's any chance you might feel even a fraction of what I, Marcus. Adrian's. The voice was firm but gentle, cutting through my spiral. Stop. I fell silent, breathing hard, suddenly aware of how much I'd just exposed. Panic started to creep in. I'd ruined everything. Our friendship, our working relationship, the comfortable dynamic we'd built, all of it, gone in one impulsive moment of honesty. I'm sorry, I said quickly, taking a step back. Forget I said anything. We can just... I love that you hum when you're concentrating too, Adrian said quietly. I froze. What? You do this thing where you sort of unconsciously hum these little melodic phrases when you're deep into a design. He continued, taking a step closer, closing the distance I'd just created. Usually somewhere between 2 and 4 p.m., when you've hit your creative stride. It's adorable. My brain was struggling to process his words, to understand what was happening. And you're not the only one who's been noticing things, Adrian continued, his voice low and intense. I notice how your eyes light up when you talk about a project you're passionate about. How you doodle in the margins of your notebooks during boring meetings. Always geometric patterns, never random scribbles. How you bite your lower lip when you're trying not to smile. How you take your coffee with way too much sugar and pretend you don't have the sweetest tooth of anyone I've ever met. He was closer now. Close enough that I could see the rapid rise and fall of his chest. Could feel the electric tension crackling in the air between us. I notice everything about you. Marcus, he said, his voice rough with emotion. And it's been driving me insane trying to figure out if you felt anything for me beyond friendship, or if I was just projecting my own feelings onto every interaction we had. The world tilted sideways. That you're feeling? I managed, barely able to form words. Adrian laughed, but it was shaky, nervous. I've been half in love with you since that first project meeting. When you presented your designs with so much passion and creativity that I couldn't look away. And I've been fully in love with you since the day you stayed late to help me meet a deadline even though you were exhausted. And you ordered us dinner, and we spent 3 hours talking about everything and nothing, and I realized I'd never felt more comfortable with another person in my entire life. My heart was pounding so hard I felt dizzy. You love me? Terrifyingly so, he admitted with a self-deprecating smile. But I didn't know how you identified. If you were interested in men, if you were available, if I was completely misreading the moments where I thought maybe, possibly, you looked at me like I was looking at you. I thought you were straight, I blurted out. Adrian's eyebrows shot up. Seriously. I literally have a pride flag pin on my messenger bag. I thought that was just ally support. He laughed, a real, genuine laugh that broke some of the tension. Marcus, I'm very, very gay, and very, very into you. The relief that flooded through me was so intense, it was almost painful. 6 months of assuming my feelings were one-sided, of carefully guarding my heart, of thinking I was alone in this attraction that had been consuming me. All of it, based on complete misunderstanding. I can't believe this, I said, shaking my head. All this time, we've been two idiots dancing around each other, Adrian finished. Afraid to risk what we had for what we wanted, I agreed softly. We stood there in the dimness, the city lights casting shadows across his face, and something shifted. The confession had changed the atmosphere, stripped away the pretense we'd been maintaining. There was nothing between us now but truth and possibility. So what happens now? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Adrian's hand came up slowly, giving me time to pull away, before his fingers gently traced the line of my jaw. The touch sent electricity through my entire body. Now he said softly, I'd really like to kiss you. If that's okay. I couldn't speak, couldn't form words past the overwhelming emotion in my chest. So instead, I closed the remaining distance between us and pressed my lips to his. The world exploded into sensation. The kiss started gentle, tentative, both of us cautious with this new territory. But then Adrian made a soft sound in the back of his throat, and his hands came up to cup my face. And something inside me just released all the longing I'd been suppressing. All the desire I'd been denying, all the emotion I'd kept carefully locked away came pouring out. I kissed him like he was air, and I'd been drowning, my hands fisting in his shirt. Pulling him closer, he responded with equal intensity. One hand sliding into my hair while the other wrapped around my waist, pressing our bodies together. His lips were soft and insistent, and when his tongue traced the seam of my mouth, I opened for him without hesitation. I'd been kissed before. I'd had relationships, moments of passion, connections that felt significant at the time. Nothing had ever felt like this. This felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. Like finding a piece of myself I hadn't known was missing. Like every romantic cliche I'd ever rolled my eyes at, suddenly making perfect sense. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against mine. Holy shit, he breathed. Yeah, I agreed, my voice shaky. I've wanted to do that for so long, he admitted. Every time you smiled at me, every time we worked late together, every time you laughed at my terrible jokes, I wanted to just grab you and kiss you and tell you how I felt. Why didn't you? I asked, my hand still clutching his shirt, unwilling to let him go. Fear, he said simply. The same reason you didn't. I was afraid of ruining what we had. Afraid of making you uncomfortable. Afraid of being wrong about the signs I thought I was seeing. I pulled back slightly to look at him properly. What signs? He smiled, his thumb tracing gentle circles on the back of my neck. The way you'd blush when I complimented your work. How you'd find excuses to touch my arm or hand during conversations. The way you'd watch me when you thought I wasn't looking, with this expression that made me hope I wasn't imagining things. I thought I was being subtle, I muttered, embarrassed. You were adorable, he corrected. And you're adorable now, all flustered and beautiful.
How beautiful.
The words settled over me like a warm blanket. I'm not beautiful, I protested automatically, old insecurities rising up. Adrian's expression turned serious. Marcus, look at me. I met his eyes. You're beautiful, he said firmly. Not just physically, though you absolutely are. I could spend hours telling you exactly how gorgeous I find every part of you. But you're beautiful in the ways that matter more. Your kindness, your creativity, the way you care about people, the way you see the world and translate it into art, the way you make me want to be better, braver, more honest. My eyes were stinging with unexpected tears. No one had ever spoken to me like this before. No one had ever made me feel so seen, so valued, so cherished. I don't know what to say, I admitted. You don't have to say anything, Adrian assured me. Just let yourself accept it. Let yourself believe that you're worth all of this. I nodded. Not trusting my voice, he pulled me back into his arms, and I went willingly. Resting my head against his chest and listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, his arms wrapped around me, secure and warm, and I felt something inside me finally relax. For the first time in 2 years, I felt safe enough to be vulnerable. For the first time in my life, I felt truly loved. We talked for hours after that. We stayed on the break room couch, wrapped around each other, sharing stories and secrets we'd kept hidden. I told him about Tyler, about the hurt that had made me build walls. He told me about his own past relationship trauma, a boyfriend in college who'd cheated on him, leaving him with trust issues and a fear of being too much for people.
I kept waiting for you to get tired of me, Adrian admitted.
Every time I was enthusiastic about something or talked too much or got too invested, I'd watch your face for signs that you were annoyed. Never, I said fiercely. I love how passionate you get about things. I love listening to you talk. You could read me the phone book and I'd be happy. He laughed softly. Do phone books even exist anymore? You know what I mean? I do, he said, pressing a kiss to my temple. And it means everything to hear it. Talked about work, about our dreams and fears. I confessed that I'd been considering leaving the company because working near him while thinking he was unavailable had become painful. He admitted he'd almost quit twice because he couldn't handle being just friends when he wanted so much more. We really are idiots, I said with a laugh. The absolute worst, he agreed. But we're idiots together now, so that's something. Together, I repeated, testing the word. Is that what this is? Are we? I'd like us to be, Adrian said. If you want that. I know this is sudden, and we probably should have had actual dates before making out in a dark office building, but I want that, I interrupted. I want you, want us, want whatever this could be? His smile was radiant even in the low light. Yeah, I confirmed. Though you're right that this is probably the weirdest first date ever. First of many, he said. And the promise in those words made my heart swell. Around midnight, we'd constructed a makeshift bed from couch cushions and the emergency blankets we'd found in the first aid cabinet. We lay together, Adrian's arms around me, my head on his chest, talking in quiet voices about everything and nothing.
Oh.
What do we tell people at work? I asked at one point. I mean, HR has that relationship disclosure policy, but we'll figure it out, Adrian assured me. No rush. We can take our time deciding how public or private we want to be. What matters is that we're honest with each other. I don't want to hide you, I said firmly. I did that before and it nearly destroyed me. I won't do it again. He hugged me tighter. Good, because I want everyone to know you're mine. Want to take you on dates and hold your hand and post ridiculously couple-wise photos that make our friends roll their eyes? I laughed. That sounds perfect. We'll navigate it together, he promised. Whatever comes, we'll figure it out. Together. That word again settling into my bones like a promise. Sometime after 1 a.m., we both dozed off, exhausted from emotional intensity as much as the late hour. I woke periodically, momentarily disoriented, before remembering where I was and who I was with. Each time I'd feel Adrian's arms around me and drift back to sleep with a smile on my face. The best sleep I'd had in years, when my phone buzzed around 4 a.m. with a text from building security saying they'd finally overridden the system, and someone was coming up to unlock the doors. I felt an odd disappointment. I didn't want this night to end. Hey, I whispered, gently shaking Adrian awake. They're coming to let us out. He blinked awake, smiling when he saw me. Hi yourself. He pulled me down for a soft, sleepy kiss that made my toes curl. Best trap I've ever been in, he murmured against my lips. Same, I agreed. We heard footsteps and voices in the hallway, the sound of the security override being initiated. The door mechanism clicked and whirred, and then suddenly the overhead lights blazed to life, making us both wince. Well, Adrian said, reluctantly sitting up and helping me gather our scattered belongings. I guess our adventure ends here, or I said, taking his hand and lacing our fingers together. Maybe it's just beginning. His answering smile was everything. The facilities manager who'd come to release us was apologetic and professional, explaining the technical malfunction that had caused the lockdown while carefully not commenting on the fact that we clearly looked like we'd spent the night together. You folks okay? He asked, genuine concern in his voice. Must have been scary, being trapped like that. We managed, Adrian said, and when he squeezed my hand, I had to fight back a smile. We gathered our things from the office, saved our work. Miraculously, our computers had preserved everything despite the power outage, and headed down to the parking garage as the sun was beginning to paint the eastern sky in shades of pink and gold. Come home with me, Adrian asked as we reached our cars. I mean, I know it's early, and we both probably need actual sleep, but I'm not ready to say goodbye yet. I kissed him instead of answering, soft and sweet in the empty garage, and felt him smile against my lips. I'll take that as a yes, he murmured. Definitely a yes, I confirmed. I followed his car through the quiet city streets, dawn breaking over the buildings, and felt like I was driving into a completely different future than the one I'd imagined when I'd left my apartment the previous morning, 20-4 hours ago. I'd been alone and resigned to my feelings remaining forever unspoken. Now I was following the man I loved to his home. My heart full of possibility, Adrian's apartment was exactly what I'd expected. Warm and lived in, with overflowing bookshelves, plants in various states of thriving, and artwork that showed thoughtful curation rather than generic decoration. It felt like him, creative and welcoming and real. It's not much, he said, suddenly seeming nervous. Kinda messy, actually. I wasn't expecting company. It's perfect, I said honestly, looking around at the space that was so quintessentially Adrian. There you, he relaxed, smiling. Coffee. I have good beans, not that office sludge we usually drink. Please. While he busied himself with the coffee maker, I explored his living room, examining the book spines and framed photos. There was one of him with an older couple I assumed were his parents, all three of them laughing at something off camera. Another of him at what looked like a pride parade, covered in rainbow colors and grinning widely. That was last year, Adrian said, appearing beside me with 2 steaming mugs. My first time actually marching instead of just watching. It was incredible. I've never been, I admitted. Always wanted to, but your ex made you feel like being visible was wrong, Adrian finished gently. I nodded, accepting the coffee and breathing in the rich aroma. Yeah, well, we're going together this year, he declared. If you want to. No pressure, but the offer stands. The image of walking through the streets with Adrian, both of us celebrating who we were without shame or hiding, made emotions swell in my chest. I'd really like that, I said softly. We settled onto his couch, much more comfortable than the office one, and I found myself curling into his side like it was the most natural thing in the world. I still can't quite believe this is real, I admitted. Keep thinking I'm going to wake up and realize I dreamed the whole thing. Adrian set his coffee down and shifted to face me, his expression serious. Marcus, I need you to understand something. Okay, I said, anxiety flickering to life. This is real, he said firmly. My feelings for you are real. What happened last night was real, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to wake up and decide this was a mistake or that I want to keep you hidden or that I'm not ready for this. He took my hand, his thumb tracing patterns on my skin. I know you've been hurt before. I know Tyler made you doubt whether you deserve to be loved openly and fully, but I need you to hear me when I say that what he did to you was wrong. You deserve everything. All the romance and joy and public affection and certainty that you were denied before. My vision was blurring with tears I was trying not to shed. I want to be the one who gives that to you, Adrian continued. Not because I'm trying to fix you or save you, but because you're incredible, and I'm falling more in love with you every second I spend with you, and I want to build something real with you. A tear escaped, trailing down my cheek. Adrian gently brushed it away.
Auntie.
You don't have to say anything, he said. I just needed you to know. To really know deep in your bones that you're wanted, exactly as you are. I set my coffee down with shaking hands and launched myself at him, kissing him with everything I had. He caught me easily, arms wrapping around me as he kissed me back with equal fervor. I'm falling in love with you too, I said when we broke apart, the words tumbling out in a rush. Probably already have fallen. Have been falling for months, actually. I'm terrified, but also happier than I've been in so long. And I want to build something real with you too. Adrian's smile was incandescent. Yeah, I confirmed. Though fair warning, I'm probably going to be occasionally insecure and weird about this, because that's what trauma does. But I'm working on it, and I promise to communicate instead of just spiraling in my head. I can work with that, Adrian assured me. In full disclosure, I'm going to be occasionally too intense and enthusiastic about us because that's who I am. But I promise to check in and make sure I'm not overwhelming you. Deal, I said. And we sealed it with another kiss that somehow conveyed promise and commitment. And joy all at once. We spent that entire Wednesday together. We didn't sleep. We were both too wired, too excited, too unwilling to waste time unconscious. When we could be talking and kissing and exploring this new dynamic between us, Adrian made us breakfast. Actual food, not just coffee, and we ate on his tiny balcony while the city woke up around us. We talked about our childhoods, our families, our hopes for the future. I told him about my dream of one day freelancing full-time, maybe starting my own design studio. He shared his secret ambition to write a novel, something he'd never told anyone at work. I have 70,000 words of a draft, he admitted sheepishly. It's probably terrible, but I keep adding to it. Can I read it? I asked. He looked surprised. You want to? Of course I do. I want to know everything about you. That earned me a kiss that tasted like coffee and possibility. Around noon, we finally acknowledged that we should probably attempt to sleep before the presentation tomorrow. Today, technically, since it was now Thursday, stay, Adrian asked. I mean, if you want, no pressure, but my bed is comfortable, and I'd really like to wake up with you. Yes, I said without hesitation. His bedroom was as thoughtfully arranged as the rest of his apartment, the bed large and inviting. We shed our work clothes from the previous day, rumpled and slept-teen, and definitely not professional anymore, and Adrian lent me soft cotton pajama pants and a t-shirt that smelled like him. We climbed into bed together, and despite everything that had happened between us in the past 12 hours, there was something particularly intimate about this, the vulnerability of sleep, of trusting someone enough to be unconscious beside them. Adrian pulled me against him, my back to his chest, his arm draped over my waist. "This okay?" he murmured sleepily. "Perfect," I whispered back. I felt him smile against my neck, his breath warm on my skin, and let myself sink into the comfort of being held. For the first time in years, I felt completely, utterly safe. We woke up tangled together, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows. Adrian's alarm was blaring. We'd set it for 3 p.m. to give us time to prepare for tomorrow's presentation. "Hey," he said, voice rough with sleep, smiling at me from approximately 3 inches away. "Hi," I replied. Unable to stop my own smile, we lay there for a moment, just looking at each other, before Adrian leaned in and kissed me slow and sweet. "I could get very used to this," he murmured. "Good," I said, "because I'm planning on making it a regular occurrence." We eventually dragged ourselves out of bed and back to reality. Adrian drove me to my apartment so I could shower and change. Then we headed back to the office to finalize the presentation, arriving around 5 to find the place mostly empty again. "Dacia vu," I joked as we settled at my desk. "Except this time, we're not trapped in pretending we don't want to kiss each other," Adrian pointed out. Fair point. We worked efficiently, our collaboration even smoother now that we weren't trying to maintain professional distance. Every so often, Adrian would lean over and press a kiss to my temple, or I'd rest my hand on his knee. Small touches that felt revolutionary in their casualness. This was allowed now. We were allowed. The thought made me giddy. The presentation the next morning went flawlessly. The client loved our concepts, praising the cohesive vision and emotional resonance of our work. Our boss was thrilled, already talking about next steps and implementation as we filed out of the conference room afterward. Adrian caught my hand briefly, squeezing once before letting go. A small gesture, invisible to everyone else, but it made my heart soar. We celebrated with the team over lunch, Thai food from everyone's favorite restaurant, paid for by the company. I sat across from Adrian, watching him laugh at someone's joke, and felt overwhelmed by affection. He must have sensed my gaze because he looked over and smiled. That special smile that was just for me. Later, back at our desks, he sent me a message through the company chat. "Adrian, dinner tonight. Like, an actual date? I want to take you somewhere nice, and hold your hand in public and be that annoying couple everyone secretly wants to be." I grinned at my screen, typing back, "Marcus, sounds perfect. Pick me up at 7. That evening, Adrian took me to a cozy Italian restaurant with candlelight and excellent wine. We held hands across the table, talked and laughed, and when the check came, we argued playfully over who would pay until finally agreeing to split it. "Next one's on me," Adrian declared. "Next one," I repeated. Loving the implication of many dates to come, walking back to his car, Adrian pulled me into a quiet doorway and kissed me under the streetlights. And I thought about how far I'd come from the guarded, wounded person I'd been just days ago. "Thank you," I said, when we broke apart. "For what?" "For being patient with me, for seeing past my walls, for making me believe I deserve this." Adrian cupped my face gently. "You do deserve this, Marcus. You deserve all of it, the romance, the love, the happy ending. And I'm going to spend however long you'll let me proving that to you. Forever?" I suggested, only half joking. "Forever sounds perfect," he agreed. 3 months later, we were still together, still happy, still navigating the beautiful mess of being in love. We'd officially disclosed our relationship to HR, endured some gentle teasing from colleagues, and settled into a comfortable rhythm of being both professional partners and romantic ones. We went to museums and concerts, cooked dinner together at one or the other's apartment most nights, introduced each other to our friends and families. Adrian's parents loved me immediately, his mother pulling me aside to say she hadn't seen her son this happy in years. My sister declared Adrian a keeper within 5 minutes of meeting him. We had our first fight about 3 weeks in, something stupid about scheduling, and I'd panicked, convinced it meant we were falling apart. Adrian had gently talked me down, reminded me that disagreements were normal, and we'd worked through it together. We had our first I love us 1 month in, both of us blurting it out at the same time during a perfect sunset at the park, then dissolving into laughter at the timing. We talked about moving in together, about future plans, about dreams we could now imagine building together, and through it all, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong, but it didn't. Instead, I slowly learned to trust in us, in the possibility that good things could happen and stay good, that I could be loved fully and openly, without shame or hiding. On a Tuesday night in January, almost exactly 3 months after the night we'd been locked in the office together, Adrian and I went back to the building after hours. This time, it was intentional. We'd been assigned another big project, another tight deadline, another reason to stay late. But as we settled at my desk with coffee and laptops, I couldn't help but smile at the memory of that first night. The fear and hope and life-changing honesty that had poured out in the darkness. "What are you thinking about?" Adrian asked, noticing my expression. "Just that I'm really glad the power went out that night," I said. He laughed, rolling his chair closer and pressing a kiss to my cheek. "Best malfunction ever." Agreed. We worked in comfortable silence for a while before Adrian spoke again. "Marcus, yeah, I know it's still early in our relationship, relatively speaking, but I want you to know I'm in this for the long haul, whatever that looks like for us." I turned to face him fully, my heart full to bursting. "Me too, absolutely completely in this." "Good," he said, grinning, "because I'm pretty sure I'm going to love you for the rest of my life, and it would be convenient if you felt the same way." "It's very convenient," I agreed, pulling him in for a kiss that conveyed everything words couldn't quite capture. When we finally pulled apart, both smiling like fools, I rested my forehead against his. "Thank you for that night," I whispered, "for your honesty, your patience, your love, for helping me find my way back to believing in this, in the possibility of happiness." "Thank you for being brave enough to let me in," Adrian replied, "for trusting me with your heart even when it scared you, for choosing to try even when everything in your past told you not to." We sat there for a moment, just breathing together, grateful for a random Tuesday, a power outage, and the courage to finally tell the truth. Some moments change everything. This one had changed us, and as we settled back into our work, shoulders touching, hands occasionally brushing, I thought about how perfect it was that our story had begun in an accidental moment of forced proximity, because the best things in life often happen when you're trapped with nowhere to run from your feelings, when you're left with no choice but to finally be honest about what your heart has been saying all along. I'd been locked in after hours with my gay crush, and everything had changed in the very best way possible.